This is Terry, and I'm coming to you from my kitchen, where one morning when I was making my espresso, it occurred to me that a comparison between an espresso making system, like the one I have behind me, with a pod coffee maker, like the one next to my coffee maker, might be a good way of illustrating the difference between the router switch that you get with your internet service provider or a purposefully built and designed network system based on a second-party router with wired switch. And so what I mean by that is this. If we look at the pod coffee maker, it is an incredibly popular way of delivering a coffee experience that is satisfying for a great many people. And so like the router switch you get from your ISP, it provides that base level experience that most people need or want. One of the reasons why I think it's so popular is that it's so simple. You don't have to worry about grinding coffee beans. You just have to select a pod, you put it in, you press a button once you've got it turned on and filled with water, and your coffee comes out mostly to your satisfaction. It's the same with the router switches from your ISP or internet service provider. They're very simple, intentionally, so that anyone with even the limited computer network setup knowledge will be able to put it into their system, turn it on, get it started, create a password, and connect their devices to it without much problem. However, there are limitations that come as a result of that simplicity. In the case of the pod maker, I really can't do much other than select a different type of coffee to be able to adjust or change or optimize my experience. Much in the same way with the router switches. They're kind of intentionally designed so that you can't get inside them and play around with all of the different settings that are possible with a router in a network system. There's a good reason for this. This level of simplicity makes it less challenging to set them up, but also prevents people from going in, making settings that may make it impossible for them to use their system, and then putting excess burden on the customer service section of your ISP or internet service provider. And so for all of those reasons, it makes sense to keep them that simple. However, with that simplicity, there's also a little bit of a limited capacity. They may not be the best at handling multiple client requests. That means the multiple requests for information signals coming from our increasingly internet-connected world. Oftentimes, we're not even sure how many devices we might have. I communicate with people all the time with the idea that they're under the impression that they don't have that many devices connected, and yet we discover in their family of 4, they may have as many as 30 or more. And in one case, the entire household was outfitted with Philips Hue internet-connected light bulbs, so they had actually nearly 100 connected devices on their network. The other thing that these don't allow you to do, besides customizing them, the ISP-provided routers, is that it don't make it easy to update the router, which you really should be doing on a fairly regular basis. In fact, you should be rebooting the router on a fairly regular basis. I would suggest once a week. To be able to have it resync, reestablish connection, check for updates, and maybe install them. Now, how does this differ, the pod coffee maker and the ISP-provided router? How does that differ from, say, a coffee-making system and a purpose-built router switch network? Well, in the main, as you may be able to tell just by looking at it, it's a somewhat more fully designed and implemented coffee maker. This is a lovely VBME machine, although not the most expensive they make by far. In fact, it's the entry-level machine, but it is extremely well designed. The pump, the heating element, every aspect of it is very carefully thought out and executed. Likewise with the grinder, it allows me really to be able to give me the freshest coffee at just the right ground, just the right amount, to take best advantage of everything that's designed into that coffee making system. And in fact, it is this customization that may be more important than even the build quality of the elements that I've just described, the coffee maker and the grinder. With this, there is hardly an aspect that I can't subtly change to improve performance. In the case of the grinder, it is an espresso-only grinder, purposely designed for that purpose. And I can set specifically the grind value that I'm looking at. I'm at about 0.6 on the scale, whatever that might mean. I'm at 11.7 seconds for my grind time. And 12.3 was too much, 11.4 was too little, 11.7 seems to be just right for the specific coffee I picked from a variety of coffee available to me, from everything from a single sourced origin bean to a specifically roasted combination that I use from my friends at Kitchen Lab here in Melmo that allows for the kind of coffee experience I want to have. Now, once we've ground that has to go into something called a portafilter that has the filter basket in it. And this is what those portafilters usually look like. This one's a double spout to be able to do 2 shots at a time. This is the more usual single spout for home use. And inside there is a little filter that you put the coffee in and tamp it down with a tamper. Now, the problem with these is that, as you might imagine, they're a little tricky to clean, to get everything clean there, but also more importantly, they don't allow me to monitor the flow of water through my coffee puck, my carefully ground and tamped coffee puck. And for that, I got a bottomless portafilter. In fact, this is essentially one of these with the bottom removed, ground out. And so as you can see, it is perfectly without a bottom. And into this, I put in the coffee filter. Now this filter is specially designed as well, engineered to provide the most even flow of water through that puck, providing the least amount of resistance, or just the right amount of resistance, I guess I should say, for that water. And that ground coffee that's put into that is also tamped in with a special grinder that also is customizable. I can take and turn this handle off, and I can insert washers into this so that it can adjust to the size of my hand so that I can more easily and consistently put just the right amount of pressure on the beans so that, again, the water flows through well. Now, the advantage when I say monitoring, what this does is it allows me to put the coffee filter in the portafilter into the coffee machine and allow me to look at a little beveled panel, a little bent piece of the stainless steel that allows the bottom of the portafilter to be seen while I'm pouring the coffee. So I can check to make sure that it is going through evenly, that the water is hitting every possible part of those beans in an even distribution so that it's not bitter, and that I'm extracting the greatest amount of flavor from whatever bean I'm attempting to use. The machine itself, the coffee maker machine, I can adjust temperature of the water, I can adjust the pressure that goes on into the water pressure into the bean, and then I can adjust the amount of time by the handle by controlling the duration of the pour or of the infusion. So how this relates to that second party router is that those routers make it really easy to do similar customization. They have apps that are available that allows you to adjust every aspect of that router's performance and connectivity. You can override its DHCP and very easily put fixed IP addresses for your most used and most important to have consistent connection audio devices. It will allow you to go in and check speed. It usually will have some sort of virus or a network attack system there to protect your devices and your network as a whole. It allows you as well to monitor, much in the same way as that I can with my bottomless portafilter, the use of your network. How many devices are online at a time? How much are they requesting information from the network? What is their burden on the network itself? And more importantly, it allows you, in the case of mine, allows you a single optimization button that once you press it, it will look and see if there are any channel conflicts going on. And there aren't that many channels with Wi-Fi 2.5, 4 and 5, so that it's very easy, even within your own network system at home, but particularly in an apartment building like where I live, that multiple networks may be interfering with each other as they try to use the same channel to communicate back and forth between the network and get information. They're even more resistant to something called ghosting, where you can have a very powerful router, say next door or not too far away, that will make your router sense that there could be a signal coming from that source and it needs to attend to it to make sure it can respond in a timely fashion. Now that router may not be anywhere near even your channel that you're using, or certainly not on your network, but it's just enough of a distraction, so we say, for your router, so that it will not be able to perform as well as it might in handling the client requests that you are generating within the network itself. And so with this customization, with the more robust built router, just like with the coffee machine, you're able to get a better, richer experience. And how that relates is I mentioned that I can use a single origin sourced beans, and I can get the subtle differences in flavor that they might provide. I can taste one roaster from another and see how they handle it differently, whether they're going for the top notes or they're going for some rich, deep, bittersweet chocolate flavor. And it's the same with your network system. You're going to be able to more clearly hear, with the improvement in audio performance, you're going to be able to more clearly hear the differences between file types, between recordings, between mastering, between different versions of those recordings that you know and love. You're going to be able to make a more informed choice as to whether you want to play that file from Tidal on Roon or whether you want to play it from Qobuz. You're going to be able to simply enjoy more deeply and more richly every time you engage with your network player sources than you otherwise would. And even more importantly than that, the overall performance of your network system will improve. So anything you're doing on it, searching the web, for example, will simply be faster, more consistent. The appliances, the applications that you might have, say that you're using in a browser window, will become you'll be more confident in their use. There was a point before I changed out my system, my internet service provided based router switch system, that I had to reboot my computer a few times a day. I had to clear the cache in my browser window to get it to work properly. Now, there may have been other reasons, other sources for that, but the minute I changed my router, everything improved. And to give you a little example of my experience, and for those of you who are concerned that you can't wire directly your network connected audio system because your internet is coming from a place far removed from where your audio system is in your home, get a mesh system. All you need to do is buy the best reviewed Wi-Fi 6 mesh system out there, and trust me, it'll set up within 20 to 30 minutes and everything will improve with the performance not of your audio system, but of the Wi-Fi connectivity at the farthest reaches of your home. We have a second bedroom that is at the exact farthest distance away from where the internet comes into our apartment. And even with the router situated in my system, because I ran a cable to get it there, it was difficult to get a good signal back in that bedroom. With the mesh system, I was able to put the main unit directly where the internet feed, the network feed, comes into my home. I was able to take an associated unit and put it directly at my sound system so that I could take a wired connection, a wired switch, connect it to that router, and then take the 8 input switch or 8 output switch that I have and connect it to all of the audio devices that are network connected. And you may be surprised at how many devices you have that are, and some of them may only be there for updating. Some of them may not actually be providing signal. But once you get them all connected to the switch, it seems to isolate the component parts in your network in such a way that not only do they work better, but as I've mentioned before, they sound better. I know that there may be some that might disagree with that. There may be some that will say, well, but Wi-Fi actually can provide a better connection because of galvanic isolation. You're not transmitting the noise that can be conducted by wires. But ultimately what we find is that wired connection simply is more stable, it's more consistent, its connectivity is better, and we honestly believe that because of that, and maybe other reasons as well, it sounds better. And so our advice to anyone who has an ISP-provided router, and particularly if you have one that's anywhere near over 5 years old, get a second-party router. Whether it is simply a higher performance Wi-Fi 6 single router, or whether it's a mesh system, which again I heartily recommend because of how easily it is to set up and how evenly dispersed you can have your Wi-Fi connectivity of all those control devices, your computers, your laptops, your iPads, everything that you have that might be connected to the internet. It will all work better. And you'll be able to concentrate on the thing that's most important, and that is the deep, richly satisfying experience of listening to high-performance streamed audio, possibly even while you're experiencing the rich and satisfying experience of a well-made espresso. I hope the comparison has some meaning, provided some information. We have some videos that exist on YouTube already. We're planning to add more, in particular one about how to set up a high-performance, audio-centered Wi-Fi network system. So if you would, subscribe, as so many people say at these videos, and also press a like to let us know that this is the kind of information that you'd like to have more of. Talk.